You're listening to Get.Out.N.Drive.Podcast with John CustomCarNerd Meyer and Shawn MrSedanman Sherrill. We'll be bringing you gearheads all the information you never wanted to know about cars and why they should be on the road and not in your garage. Are you ready to get out and drive?
Shawn, I got this cool disc here from Fax Discs.
Yeah, I've got one too.
Make sure you guys tune in to the end of the episode, find out what this little thing does.
Hey, we are back with another episode of Get.Out.N.Drive.Podcast. I am Shawn, MrSedanman Sherrill.
And I am John, CustomCarNerd Meyer. We've got Ryan Brutt with us today from the Auto Archaeologist also.
Oh, awesome.
How's it going, gentlemen?
Doing really good, doing really
great.
good.
How are you today?
Oh, can't complain. It's in the 80s here in Chicago, and it's fall, so I'm not complaining.
That's fantastic. I know we also, Ryan does a lot of barn finds, a lot of books about barn finds, and a lot of videos and things on social media and on YouTube.
Yeah, he turns up a lot of cool stuff. I mean, all car guys are out driving the back roads or driving wherever they go, and
right.
If they're real car guys, they're looking at different garages and behind people's houses as they drive and hoping to find something really cool. I mean, every once in a while I'll stumble across something. Leaving work here a few months ago and pull out, and some guy drives by on the flatbed trailer, has a 70 Trans Am.
Where'd that come from?
You could see that it was been sitting in a garage forever.
Right.
You know, a little beat up, little rusty, but solid, complete.
Right.
You know, so I whip out and try to follow him a little bit, and he lost me at the light. But I got a couple pictures, but where to come from? Where are you going with it? You know?
Right. That stuff follows. You know, I follow that stuff every now and then because I'm on a main road in St. Louis, and it's right there on Highway 44, and we see, you know, cars that have been sold and stuff. They're on trailers and still got all the garbage all over it, you know, bird crap all over it. And, you know, it looks like it's been in a horse barn forever.
Yeah.
And, you know, car guys are always on the hunt for that stuff. Is that what you do? And you get leads and find that type of stuff, Ryan?
I mean, that's actually what I do most of the time.
Okay.
Is I just drive around documenting cool cars in barns and fields and junkyards, garages, backyard, anything and anywhere where there's something cool is where you'll try to find where I try to go. Yeah. And you guys are lucky. St. Louis is a real treasure trove of stuff. I found a bunch of really cool, really rare cars sitting out there, surprisingly.
Yeah, kind of in a little network of people that are now not only just you rooting these things up, but people sending you leads and information about, hey, my brother's got this car and my friend or my neighbor or whatever.
Absolutely. With me being in the publishing industry, it's definitely been a lot more, not a lot more, but definitely people are sending me leads. And what I do is I take all my leads, all of the stories I hear, and I put them on a online map that, allows me to plot out adventures in great detail. And but I also do it the old-fashioned way. I have no life or dignity, so I'll just drive around and talk to people.
Sure.
As an example, I had to come back from Kentucky last week from the Holly Mo party, and I had a day to drive north, so I just meandered my way through Indiana and found a whole bunch of cool stuff. Wow. So you never know what's going to pop up.
Are you sneaky like the other guys and using Google Maps and aerial photography and all that type of stuff?
I do that when I have a lead to check to see if it's legit or not.
Okay.
Just to verify, like some guys will be like, yeah, there's a 70 Hemi Cuda in the backyard, and I'll look on Google Earth, and you can see it right on Google Earth. There it is.
Wow.
Just double check. I mean, it doesn't help waste time to drive out there and then the car disappeared 30 years ago.
Sure. Right. Sure.
So I definitely use all the tools at my disposal to check, double check, verify, and then go on from there.
Social media has just made it easier for you?
Oh, absolutely. There's tons of groups on Facebook and Instagram for people that drive around or at least are, in the vicinity of cool stuff. And they'll post sometimes where it's at. Right. So I'm a member of all those boards. So every time that they do, here's a 69 Mach 1 Mustang sitting right next to the road in Montana at, Casey's General Store.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's for me. Boop. put it on my map. So
that's awesome.
And then you get out there.
Then you gather like multiples in that area, and then kind of figure out what's going to be good for your time, and kind of send out there, and kind of put those in on one trip.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, if I'm going coming from Kentucky, I saw that there was 4 different barn find leads that I had that I had never investigated.
Oh wow!
So I was able to, if I got up early enough, I was able to hit up at least 3 of them on my way. And verify that either they were legitimate or they weren't,
right.
Or at least update my information to verify it.
Sure.
But it does. Like I went through Iowa a month ago, and I hit up 15 barn finds because I had all these marks in that area. So I just did a big loop through the area and hit up a whole bunch of cool stuff, and was able to make my time much more efficient.
Cool. You find people are pretty receptive whenever you approach them about their vehicle? They want to talk about it, or are they kind of standoffish and reserved?
Well, the thing I tell them up front is, I'm not there to buy the car. I'm there to document it.
Okay.
I want to know the history. Why is this GTO judge sitting in your driveway? And I never trespass. I always go and knock on the door first, because my life, I've heard enough horror stories about people being shot and threatened. So I always knock on the door or figure out who owns it first, then go from there. But I'm like, hey, I'm not here to steal your car. I don't want to. I'm driving a Challenger. I can't obviously load up your car and take it away.
Right.
Why is this judge sitting in your driveway? What's the story? And when they see that I'm not threatening, I'm also a big fat guy, so I look like a teddy bear. They're like, oh yeah, this is the GTO judge I brought my kids home in, or this is the one we got married in. It's a physical connection to memories in their lives, which is very rare.
Right.
It's like people have pictures and such. So that's why it's been sitting for 40 years.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the big things. But I have had a handful of bad experiences. I've had people, say, I'm not interested. And I'm like, I understand. You have a good day. Right. I had one guy call the cops on me because he thought I was ruining the car hobby, which is a long story.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so there's definitely some crazies out there, but for the most part, I'd say 95% of the people that I've talked to have been very receptive and allowed me to document their cool stuff.
Cool. Yeah. Do you think just memories that are stuck and embedded in the vehicle, no matter how rotten the car gets present day, in their mind, it's still something that they're going to end up getting to, or I'm going to restore that someday? Do you think that's the primary reason people keep cars?
I wouldn't say it's that they plan on getting to it anymore. I mean, a lot of these people are now older that bought these cars new or even secondhand.
Right.
It's more like it's just a physical connection, and when that's gone in any sense, it's gone forever for them. I mean, they may have pictures, they may have the memories right now, but that car is literally like a lightning rod for everything. All the emotions, all the feelings they had at that time, or in their lives, and they don't care. I mean, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's not costing them any money.
I see.
So they'll let it rot into the ground until they pass, and then their kids will either crush it or sell it. Which you're actually seeing. I'm sure you guys are seeing these auctions.
Oh yes,
Now more and more with these older people that had the cars and the kids don't care, and so they're just selling everything off.
Yeah, that comes to mind. The biggest thing, other than Lambricht auction, is the Tin Farm auction that was in Florida. I don't know if you had seen that.
That was a good one.
That was excellent. I mean, that got hundreds of pages on the ham, and those cars were sitting up at a 45-degree angle and stacked in that warehouse and everything. And then they were all around the woods and all around the drive going up to the house and everything. And that family, I mean, for real, that family made millions of dollars. Yeah. Off of those vehicles, and it isn't like they just put a battery in the car and drove them away, but those are cars that have been rat-holed 60s, 70s, 80s era, and those cars were quote unquote cheap. You can get a Hemi car for $3,800 in 1980, that type of thing, and that's when they were just stacked up.
Yeah, Ryan, you bring up a good point, and John and I talk about this a lot. There's a lot of cars out there that an older person has hung on to forever,
right?
And their kids don't care about it. They've not been allowed to touch it.
Or can't open the garage.
So they don't have any kind of emotional attachment to them. So to them, when the older person is passed on.
Right.
To them it's just almost a burden that they've got to get rid of this thing now.
Yes.
And I think you're going to see that more and more with a lot of cars
as
the next few years.
The baby boomer generation generally starts to get a little bit older,
right?
And sadly, they're going to pass,
right?
And you see a lot of their hoarder mentality with automobiles and parts and memorabilia and stuff. Their family's not interested, and you see stuff pop up on Marketplace that is a really terrible picture. And you're like, oh, well, that looks like kids just flipped the light on in the garage and took this picture, and it's cheap.
Right.
And it's going to hit the market, and people are just going to go nuts about it.
Yeah.
Of that type of stuff, kind of getting off into that, what is it's hard to pinpoint, I'm guessing. What's like the weirdest or most interesting story that you've come across?
I
know it's hard.
So many. The most interesting one recently is I found in a garage. Well, I was shown in a garage a 1970 Hemi Cuda, 2 fender tag. Oh, it's actually a 3 fender tag car. So it's 2 fender tags, like a with Mopars. When they ran out of room on the first fender tag, they put options onto the second.
Right.
But it was a Hemi car, so it had a third one that said Hemi Fender. So it was a 3 fender tag car. It's a long story. It's a very well optioned Hemi Cuda. The guy bought it new in Detroit, and he was in the military, so he drove it around for like 2 years. But he did right off the showroom floor. He took the wheels off and put on slotted mags.
Okay.
So he drove it around for a few years. Something happened. I'm not quite sure, but it broke, and he put the car away in 1976. Because when I went in the garage, it had 1976 license plates still on it.
Oh wow! Just parked it and walked away.
Yeah, it had like 20,000 miles on. I can't remember the exact, but it was a real low mile car.
Sure.
Relatively speaking. And in the corner were the tires with still nubs on them. The original 70 Hemi Cuda.
Oh, so you kept it.
They were just dog dish wheels.
Sure.
But the original tires still had. I mean, they're all dry rotted.
Right.
But unfortunately, the father had passed away a few years ago, and the son was the one showing me the car. I'm like, okay, this is great. And
sure.
Eventually got it out of the garage because the reason he showed it to me was they were selling the house. So I'm like, okay, cool. Then the daughter got involved, and she tried to sell it out from under the brother.
Oh, nice.
And now they're in. I don't forget what court. They're fighting now.
Yeah.
Over this car. She keeps on trying to sell it illegally. He's trying to protect it. It's this whole thing.
Nice.
And it's been going on. I have pictures of that car from 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're still fighting over it to this day. It's really sad.
That's a shame.
That reminds me of the big, long, fat story of someone's out there listening. Hopefully they make it into a movie. The Wheelie General Lee.
Oh God, that's a whole nother story.
Oh man, we could talk for an hour on that.
It's still sitting. It's still up in Oregon, sitting in the guy's garage now.
Yeah, I'm glad they got that car back, and the way they got it back is we may do another show on that, and we may have Ryan involved.
Yeah,
but that was incredible.
My friend actually owns the only remaining all original screen used General Lee. It still has the original tires from its last scene in the TV show.
Oh wow, incredible.
Yeah,
he had to put inner tubes in them because they're so dry rotted.
Sure.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe we need to do an entire episode on just General Lee cars.
Right.
Or episode or two. I mean, however many we can fill.
Exactly. I had, at a former shop that I owned, I had a woman, random. We had the door open on random day. She wandered into my shop, and she said, I have a car. I mean, completely tripped over us. And she was local to the neighborhood. And I said, oh, hey, nice older lady. I have a car. And then she immediately started yelling at me. And she said, and smacked her hand down on my desk, I'm not selling this car, and you're not going to make me sell this car. I'm like, easy. I don't even know what kind of car you have. Talked to her for a little bit, and she took me to her home to evaluate the car because she wanted to get it restored and running. Turns out that it was a 54 Ford pace car convertible.
Ooh, cool.
And never had decals on the sides of it. Had all the correct, trunk, imitation Continental kit and the correct wire hubcaps, and we opened the hood, saw the flathead, and it's scribbled in grease pencil that says Pace Car on the firewall. Had
cool.
the gold candy dash and the gold candy top irons, and the car was beautiful. And it probably had under 20,000 miles on it. And sitting in her garage, and she said, I cleaned up a little so I could show it to you. But when she showed it to us, there were still chicken coops and dog crate carriers and everything all over this whole car. And she had to unload probably half an hour of junk to get it to where we could open the hood and see the car. I was just amazed, and end up, later on, a year later, I saw her house was for sale. Never saw what happened with the car, never saw what happened with anything. Yeah. I'm guessing she passed away and the car went to somewhere.
Went to another garage to
sit. Is that kind of what you run into? You see vehicles that are just packed with like a jello mold of stuff. You can't see
absolutely.
a car.
I mean, I've been in plenty. There's a situation, another Hemi Cuda, ironically enough,
that
the guy's in Tennessee. He has 15 C1 Corvettes, about 20 C2 Corvettes, a Superbird chained to a post in his lean-to, a Hemi Roadrunner, about 10, 57, 56, 55 Chevys, convertibles, fuel inject, all this stuff. And he has a Hemi Cuda buried in Corvette parts in the back of one of his shops, and it's so buried I couldn't get a clear. It would take me probably 2 hours to unbury this car to get a clear look at it. It was ridiculous. He's like, next time you call me a few days ahead of time, I'll try to clear it off. I'm like, oh, that's terrible.
My goodness.
Because the funny thing is, the engine was in another barn.
Yes.
And I tripped over. I'm like, 71 Hemi engines are slightly unique to earlier ones, so I could tell it was definitely a later one.
Right.
And if it came in any 70, 71 vehicle, they're always super rare because they were at the end of the line. So I'm like, why is this 70, 71 Hemi? It's like, it's in the Cuda in the corner. I'm like, where?
That is
He's
incredible.
like, see that pile of Corvette parts? How it kind of looks like a car? I'm like, oh, God.
Oh, geez.
Are you involved with McCacken?
The Muscle Car Corvette Nationals, that's actually a really funny story.
Okay.
Well, it's not funny like but it's just
interesting.
What are the odds? Bob Ashton, who's the head of the show, used to do Hot Rod Power Tour, and he still does on occasion. And he said he ran this car show in Chicago, or it was starting at that time. He's like, I should come and see it. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I go to McCacken the first year. I'm like, oh, this is great. I mean, this is wonderful. He's like, well, you should join the crew and work security or something. I'm like, okay. And he knew what I did because I was running the Mopower Tour, which was this Mopar group inside the Hot Rod Power Tour. And he knew I do barn finds and all that stuff. And so I think it was the second or third year of the actual show. Mm-hmm. They had a 67 427 Corvette tri-power car barn find. And there's only that one car in the show.
Right.
And it was still covered in dirt and all that, and people went crazy for it.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me, he's like, hey, Ryan, instead of working security and all that, would you want to put up just like 5 or 6 cars in this one? Literally, it's in the corner of the show. I'm like, sure, why not? It was so well received. Every magazine that we had there covered the cars we had in the barn finds.
Wow.
And so then they had given me one corner, and the way it's set up, there's a second side to that area.
Sure.
Like, well, Ryan, would you want to have both sides? And I'm like, crap. Okay.
Nice.
So it went from 1 car to 7 or 8 in the first year that I ran it.
Right.
To 14 or 15, and then I think the most we've ever had is 30.
Oh, wow.
And it's just me running the section, and I have some friends to help me organize, like push the cars around, because half of them don't run.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But usually at McCacken, I'm either the largest or second largest section in the show.
Wow.
And that's talking Hemi Cuda displays, Yankos, all that. Last year we have a new section.
Yeah.
Or for the last 2 years, we've had a section that has like 32 cars. But even that, they've given that to me to organize also. So it's been a hell of a few years. But yeah, no, I've been wonderfully involved in also organizing the entire show. I actually do. I used to do 3D modeling, so I actually do all the maps and help with the placement of vehicles for the actual show. So
wow,
I'm quite busy.
Sounds like you have your hands full.
Yeah,
crazy.
Definitely, but it's so much fun. I mean, it's all a blur while you're doing it because I don't sleep for like 4 or 5 days straight.
Yeah.
Because not only am I running my barn find display, I'm also helping with setup and takedown, but I'm also doing photography for a dozen magazines.
Right.
So I'm there till 4 in the morning every day, and I have to be back at 6 o'clock to be signing books and all that. So I get like an hour of sleep. But it's so much. I mean, I hate it at the time, but afterwards, you're just like, I can't believe we survived that. That's amazing.
So you just kind of move in on day one or whatever before the show, and then when it's all over, you move back out. Then
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we do move in over 2 days, which is Thursday and Thursday, Friday, and then move out. Usually takes place very quickly on Sunday night.
Okay.
Other than probably a handful or so of cars.
yeah.
So I know you've been doing a lot with McCacken and Barn Find Cars and doing everything. We all start somewhere. I have my own memories, young kid. What's your first car memory? What got you into liking cars and caring at all about this stuff?
That's actually really easy. I can actually name the car, the location.
There you go.
I wasn't a car guy when I was a kid. I mean, I played with Matchbox cars, but by no means into even my teenage years was I into cars at all. My first car when I was 16 was a 1990s Taurus station wagon.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I mean, it literally did everything I needed, and I loved it. Unfortunately, for some reason, even in I think it was 90, it may have been 2000, 2001, someone stole the tape deck out of my car. And I'm like, with CD, not the point, but someone stole the tape deck out.
Right.
And so my dad was in the automotive industry. He's like, hey, my friend at this shop does CD installs. Go give him $100 and he'll put a CD player in your car. I'm like, okay. So I go down there and he's like, yeah, it'll be like 6 hours. And I'm like, oh, great. What am I going to do for 6 hours? So I wandered the neighborhood. I walked around. He let me walk through the shop. And in the middle of the shop was this car completely buried in detritus of just the shop.
Right.
They did interiors. They did engine. They did everything at the shop, including electrical. So it was just buried. There was like a Mercedes hardtop sitting on, and it was a 71 Cuda.
Oh, wow.
A black car with a black interior. Guild fenders, quad headlight, the whole bit. And it was just buried.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is a really cool car. I really like the look of it and all that stuff. So after, this was before cell phone cameras and all that.
Sure.
My mom works at a school. She's like, here. I'm like, Mom, can I borrow the school's digital camera? And it still used floppy disks at the time.
Oh yeah. I remember those.
Yeah. Yep.
So she's like, yeah, you have to bring it back within 4 or 5 hours. So I took it, went down to the car, snapped, I think 4 or 5 pictures on that camera, took it, brought it home, and that flipped the switch in my head. I'm like, this thing is so cool. And I found this by accident. I literally tripped over this in my free time. What can I do? What can I find if I actually put my mind into this? And that literally was what started me down this path.
Nice.
Interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anything come of that car? Do you know of or no?
What's up?
Did anything come of that car? Do you know, did it get rescued and restored, or is it still sitting there?
Actually, that's a really ironic story. I didn't go down there for 10, 15 years because it's in Chicago pretty deep.
Sure.
It's not easy to get to. And I had known the owner said that the car wasn't there anymore. I'm like, okay, c'est la vie, move on with my life.
Right.
I just happened to be in the area 3 years ago. And I'm like, I'm just going to drop in and, follow up, see what happened.
Right.
And I show up, and in the exact same spot was the car. And
really?
It had been painted, and they were literally reassembling it as I walked in. And I'm like, oh my God, this car literally changed my life. He's like, oh, that's amazing. I had my Challenger,
right,
which is a new one, but I had books in my trunk. So I'm like, here, I ran out, got because this was in my first book. I brought him like, here's the first, picture that I took of it, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I gave him that copy of the book. He's like, well, here, come on around the corner with me. And so the car's in the middle of this area, and there's a pile of junk just to the one side, and there's all the original parts off the car. The original grill, because it was cracked, right? They just bought a new one. So I bought the entire original grill, the original fenders, the original lower valance for like $200.
Wow.
And it's now sitting on a shelf in my garage, waiting for the day I'm going to make, because it was so cool. It's originally a red car, now it's red.
Right.
But someone just spray bombed it black with these big giant Plymouth stickers on the grill. So you can't miss it. It's not like any other car out there.
Right.
And I have that. I have the grill, and I sold off the fenders because I didn't need them. But I have the grill from the car that changed my life.
Oh, very nice.
Crazy.
Yeah. And now it's been restored, and they actually, I helped them find a whole bunch of parts for the car, and I think it's sitting in the guy's garage, but I haven't talked to him in like 6-8 months now.
Right. Yeah. Right. Did you take your driver's test in any kind of cool car when you were younger, or is it back to that Taurus wagon?
It was the Taurus wagon. Unfortunately, my family isn't into cool cars at all.
Sure.
But I will say my dad used to be into cool cars.
Sure.
He had brand new in 1970 a Hemi Cuda. Bought it new off the showroom floor here in Chicago.
Yeah.
Raced it, he knew my dad was into all the guys locally.
Sure.
So he knew Mr. Norms, he knew Nicky Chevrolet, all the stuff.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So, but unfortunately, in 1973, he broke the Hemi, pulled the engine and transmission out, riveted the shaker hood to the hood he riveted the shaker hood to the car, dropped in a 440 out of like a Newport, sold the car off. And so for the last 50 years, my dad has had a Hemi Cuda engine and transmission in our garage. And it's unfortunately, it's still there right now, but I'm using it as a table.
I see.
Yeah.
But he got rid of the heads because they were junk, because he broke them.
Right.
Buy the original block, transmission, and other just bits and pieces to my dad's original Hemi Cuda.
Wow. That's cool. Any plans to do anything with that and put it in anything?
I do have a 71 Challenger I'm restoring, and I'd like to put it back. I'd like to put it in there. I did find the original body, ironically enough, about 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
I won't move off of it, and I won't move off the engine and transmission.
Right.
So we're kind of at a stalemate.
Nice.
But I would like to do the engine correctly. I don't want to put like Edelbrock heads on. I want to do 1970 heads and do it correctly. And I don't know if you guys, Hemi parts are super expensive, especially when you get into
yes, they are.
I'm very familiar.
70-71 era.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that. Do you find most of the people that you come across are like baby boomer era that purchased the cars in the 70s secondhand? Absolutely.
A lot of the guys I find are definitely, the baby boomer era. And a little bit later now.
Okay.
50s, 60s are definitely popping out more and more.
I see.
It's the guys that had, the hot rods back in the day.
Right.
They're getting back into it, and then it's sat and such.
Right.
Definitely in that world.
Yeah, because I see that they're like my dad, and he's exactly of that age, and everybody in the gas crunch era, when you watch the fall of the muscle car in 71 and you watch the fall of everything in the 70s, everybody had these cars and they were all white elephants, and no one wanted them because gas was quote unquote so expensive back then. And you see people either had the ability to hoard them and buy other people's cars that were selling them because of gas crunch. I remember a guy in St. Louis. He had a picture of a pink Cuda on the wall that he told me he sold in 1978 because he couldn't afford the gas, and he bought an Omni.
Was it an AAR Cuda?
No, I don't think so. It was. I don't think. I'd have to think of it.
My friends down in your area, they own a junkyard just southwest of you guys.
Okay.
They just pulled out of a shed about a year ago a pink AAR Cuda. Just Jefferson City area, I believe.
Okay. Yeah,
I know this was West guys, but I think it was originally a St. Louis car.
Sure. Yeah, this, I don't remember if this was an AAR car or not, but I know this fella he had the picture up on his wall, and he ran an electrical company, auto repair shop in St. Louis. And every time I talked to him, he'd have to remind me that he traded off his pink Cuda for a Dodge Omni when they first came out in 78.
It's like one of the worst trades ever.
Yes.
Ironically enough, there was a guy, the cover of my second book, that car right there is an AAR Cuda that was sitting in this shed for 40 years. And the guy bought it secondhand in 1972, I think it was.
Okay.
And we just got it running and driving a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And we brought it to his first car show ever.
Nice.
He wasn't a car guy. He wasn't into going to car shows. We brought him to his first car show.
Wow.
And it was the same thing. He had heard from his friends, because he had room, so he put it away.
Right.
And he was hearing from his friends, oh, I regret selling that Camaro I had when I was a kid, or I regret selling this car or that car. So he's like, well, I'm not going to regret this. I'm not going to sell it.
There you
so
go.
He just kept it in the corner of the barn, and unfortunately, it was a legitimate 100-year-old barn, rusty, dilapidated.
Right.
So it got rusty underneath, unfortunately, because it wasn't sealed very well.
Right.
But it's running and driving right now, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's what we get to, and as you do yourself, Shawn and I get to be involved with now history of families and the history of cars and things, either with people passing away and people getting their family heirloom cars running. We do that on a daily basis at our work. And I've been doing it for a really long time, and being available to be in that situation with families is just absolutely incredible. To see a family or to see a man sitting behind the steering wheel of a car, and you can see the memories coming out, and he tells you when he remembers that he bought the car for the first time, or he did this for the first time, or that for the first time, or picked up a girl from high school in this car. You can't replicate that. That is memories that you're giving back to them.
Absolutely. And that's why some of these cars rot away, because of those memories.
Yes.
Right.
Some of them do rot. Some of them are stored away.
Right.
I just shot, on the last day before I came home from Iowa, an original owner 69 GTO Judge. And when I told them I contacted them through a cousin because he told me about it. When I showed up, they had 3 generations of their family there to tell me the story of this car, and they had pictures of it when he brought his son home in it.
Yep.
He has pictures of his daughter sitting on the hood in 1978, and so on. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
they were fortunate. It was put in a nice garage for 50 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You made an interesting comment. The guy with the AAR Cuda, that he wasn't necessarily a car guy. And I know people kind of wondered, how does somebody have a car like that without being a car guy?
Right.
But a lot of people forget that at one time these were just transportation. They were just cars.
Yep.
Right.
You as a kid in high school, you kind of wanted a cool car to drive just for a status thing.
Right.
Didn't necessarily make you a car guy, though.
Right.
And people always kind of wonder that how could somebody have something like that and not be a car guy? But
because it was sheet metal, rubber, and glass. It was a transportation piece.
It was transportation. Exactly. It was cheaper.
Yep.
It was kind of cool to hang out on the high school parking lot.
Right.
But that was it.
Yeah, I keep saying this a lot on our show, but everybody says the greatest muscle car era was, let's call it 62 to 70. And that's the greatest thing ever. You talk to people that they come back from Vietnam and bought a car and all this stuff. In my eyes, I think the greatest muscle car era is 1976 to 86. Second-hand muscle cars. I remember as a kid at that time opening up the Wheels and Deals or Auto Trader and looking at all of these cars that now that I see cross the auction block, and they're 3-figure cars that I remember seeing for $3,800 in 85.
Oh, even that. I mean, I've heard stories of $500.
Yes.
Hemi Cuda, I mean not Hemi cars, and
Sure.
with engines missing or blown up and
Yep.
such.
Right.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible to think of cars that I thought were expensive, and that's why I use that $3,800 number, because I tripped over tons of cars in the pre-eBay days. I would say from '89 to probably '92 that were $300, $400, $500 cars that put a battery and a carb in it and slush the gas tank and you're rolling.
Right.
Yep.
And those cars now are $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, $50,000 cars. And exponentially, you see how eBay has, either side of the coin, if you're a buyer or seller, has ruined the hobby. And it's incredible that some people have just seen that trend of cars just go up, price tag go up crazy amount.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't feel eBay. I mean, eBay opens it up to a whole new world of people.
Right.
It's good and bad. It's how it's used. Like, look at the comic book or the trading card market. Stuff that used to be rare is no longer rare because it's more easily accessible.
Correct.
But I'd say it's more the auctions, the big ones,
the big
that
auction
are driving
houses.
up the pricing on these cars.
Yes.
When they're not worth it. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard it. I've heard it enough.
Yes.
I remember I found a Slant 6 Duster, $70, really nice clean Duster, and the guy wanted like $15,000 for it, and I'm like,
right.
Clean size, okay, I get it. Why do you think it's worth $15,000?
Uh-huh.
Well, I saw a 340 4-speed go on Barrett Jackson for
Right.
whatever $60,000, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Correct.
big difference,
Right.
Yes.
very big difference.
Yes. Some people get it. Some people don't get it. I see the Orphan or Gas Crunch nerd cars are starting to go up in price. Pretty heavy. And Shawn laughs at me all the time. Mustang 2, Pinto Maverick, that type of thing. Vegas, he's already shaking his head.
Stop it, John.
Vegas and all that stuff. I don't know why. The prices of those things are going up.
Because more people are, because you can make a Vega fast, very cheap nowadays.
Right.
You can drop in an LS with, a cheap Chinese turbo.
Right.
And a 4-speed for like $3-4 grand.
Right.
And you'll have almost 1,000 horsepower and
Yes.
do 9s in the quarter mile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cheap. Yes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Anyhow,
Crazy.
I'm just not a Mustang 2 fan.
Right.
I'll just throw that out there right now.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
no, neither am I. I mean,
Yes.
other than, there's a few out there. Like the Mach 1s of like, was it 76, 77?
Yeah.
Those are pretty, I like those. Those are kind of neat.
Yeah. Hidden Mustang 2 guy.
Okay. All right.
I'm actually more of an Aspen Volare kind of guy.
There you go.
Oh, see that I could do.
Right.
I could do an Aspen or Volare and put a Gen 3 Hemi or something in it. And,
Right.
Yep.
It's got to be petty blue and a street stock replica of a NASCAR car.
They had those factory.
Right. I love them.
Right.
Those were the kit cars of 77.
Yes.
I mean, not my first choice of cars, but I could do one of those. I could see it being cool.
Yes.
Kind of in its own funky kind of way.
Yeah, I've been tagging all of the cars that I find on our Facebook page. I've been tagging everything in the 70s with hashtag decal horsepower. like you look at a Volare based Roadrunner, the orange and black cars and everything like that. Decal horsepower or disco muscle cars.
They come out with 130 horsepower from the factory.
Exactly. Screaming Cutlass SX.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's get back to something more interesting. And then, so of all these cars you kind of run across, Ryan, do you see any get restored once they start talking to you? Does the interest come back up in the car? Do they restore them, or do they just kind of continue to sit? Are there any happy stories?
My because I'm overly enthusiastic about these cars. I've absolutely had it where my enthusiasm for something like Hemi, whatever, has gotten them to get off their butts and get cars running and driving and working. That's happened. I won't say a lot. I mean, I found a lot of cars on my travels.
Sure.
But it has happened. Like the GTO Judge original owner car,
Right.
one that's in Iowa.
Right.
They were so enthusiastic about my stuff. I told them about McCacton.
Uh-huh.
Like, oh, well, the car's been sitting here for 40 years, but that sounds like fun. What if we dig the car out and we get it, kind of running and driving? And I'm like, that would be great for everyone.
Right.
Why not do it? So that's just one example of what could happen. But I've had Chargers, GTOs, Chevelles, Cutlasses, everything in between revive because of my doing of some form.
Right.
But one of the big things that actually happens is before I leave, I always tell the owner of the car, I'm like, here's my car. I'm going to leave it in the glove box of the car. If anything ever happens in the future, if you do decide to, if you want to sell the car or if you want to restore the car, either I can try to buy the car or I know people who won't mess around with you. They'll give you a fair market value for the car.
Sure.
They're not going to offer you $500.
Right.
But if you want to either have it restored or if you want to have the car fixed or even just fix it yourself, I know where to get parts. And I've had a lot of people actually drop me emails or call me 2, 3, 5, 10 years later.
Wow.
Like, hey, it's Steve. I had that 70 Chevelle SS 396 car that was in the garage. Hey, I want to get the car running and driving, and I need a brake master cylinder. Where do you recommend I go? And I'll be like, all right, well, you can go to OPG for an original one, or you can go to Rock Auto for just a cheap reman. And I've had more cars revive that way than me having actual direct work with them.
Right.
But it's been great.
That's cool. I mean, it's nice to hear that people are, at least some people are wanting to do something. Maybe the spark has come back. And,
yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, we had recently interviewed Eddie Gatton. He's now the current caretaker of the Imperial Stormtrooper Vega. I don't know if you're familiar with that vehicle. Anyway, you're not.
Oh,
it is.
Yeah, the one that was the giveaway car.
That was the car that won the Mustang for ISCA Grand Champion in 1979.
Okay.
Yes.
Different car that I'm thinking about then.
This car is it has a early Chrysler Hemi, a 392 based.
No, it's 426.
It is a 426. I'm sorry, you are correct. It's a 426 gold-plated copper candy, like a root beer copper candied vehicle, and it was a gold-plated, brass-plated ISCA show winner. Several years in a row. Yeah. And they won International Grand Champion 1979 and won in the next year. And they won a Mustang. But anyway, his dad felt he was at the pinnacle and the top of being able to build a car. So they brought the car home. They brought all of the trophies home, brought the board and the display area and everything, put it in a trailer and walked away.
Yeah.
Until recently, Eddie has, with social media, been putting out pictures of Imperial Stormtrooper. And we interviewed him about the vehicle and about being the caretaker of the car and the history of the car. And he's on the verge of wanting to get it out. And I'll see if I can get him in touch with you. We wanted to have him out and have the car unrestored, still with its light patina and everything, and have it at McCacken. So we can certainly talk about some things. He's kind of reserved about the car because it was very much a mirrors underneath glamorous ISCA show car.
Yeah.
And we're trying to explain to him how great it would be to be at McCacken in its current state.
Right.
Absolutely. We just had in the same vein, I don't know if you guys saw, we had one of the 7 AMX3 Pininfarina designed sports cars from AMC at McCacken last year.
Yes.
And it was absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. And we were so fortunate. I've been trying to get that car there for 5-6 years now.
Wow.
And I was supposed to go shoot that car in the barn in northern Michigan 5 years ago. And I was supposed to go to I was at Woodward Avenue Dream Cruise. And I was supposed to drive up Saturday after the cruise.
Right.
The father died that night.
Oh,
my goodness. That is terrible. Now for the people that may not. Okay, that didn't get a chance. That is terrible.
But I mean, I kept in touch with the family.
Right.
And they eventually sold it to a nice gentleman, and he brought it to the show. And now it's going to be fully restored. Mm-hmm. But we had it as found.
Wow.
And I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It was amazing to see in person.
Now, for the people that may not know, that is a factory prototype show car. Is that correct?
Yep, that was actually, there were 7, I think, 6 or 7 of them made.
Okay.
And that was the prototype. And everyone will say it's a Ford Pantera.
Right.
This actually predates the Pantera by a few years.
Oh, wow. But it has that general side profile.
It does. Well, side profile, and if you look at it from the front, it has that dual, like, sport boat kind of dual pontoon look on the front with the pop-up headlights.
I see.
Okay.
It was really cool. We had it right up front, and it was definitely one of the highlights of the entire show. So tell the gentleman who owns the Imperial Stormtrooper that it would be a great fit for our show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will talk to him, and we'll see what's happening with it. I know you say you've seen a lot of vehicles and helped people get their cars restored. Have any cool rescue or breakdown stories, or getting vehicles out and kind of trust them for a little bit? We love roadside breakdown stories.
Breakdown stories. I've had a few over the years. Nothing too. I've had more rescue stories than anything else.
Yeah.
Just this past March, I helped some friends of mine. We pulled 3 of them were 69 Chargers.
Okay.
One was a 68, and we literally pulled it out of just about a swamp.
Ugh.
In actually north of you guys in Missouri, just by between you guys and Hannibal.
All right.
Okay. Familiar with that.
So we had 3 trailers. One had 2 cars, and the other 2 had 1 car. And as we're driving down the road, I'm behind everyone because I'm in a car I'm in my Challenger because I came from a different direction.
Right.
And the 1 car was so rusty, the springs popped through the trunk, through the frame rail, through the trunk floor, hit the trunk lid, popped the trunk lid open. Oh my! It was a whole big thing of sparks. Oh, that was
my god!
The funniest barn find rescue I did was last year, I believe. You guys ever hear of an Oldsmobile Jetfire? I've done a whole bunch of articles on them.
Yes.
Yep. Heard of them.
Okay, so my friend who is the predominant Jetfire owner, he has the largest collection of cars and parts. He's like, hey, I'm going to be in Iowa this weekend pulling a Jetfire out of a garage, out of an actual legitimate barn.
Right.
Where it's been sitting since like 1974-ish.
Okay.
I'm like, great. I'll actually be out there the same weekend for the Mopar show. Let's go. I'll document it. And I don't know how we were going to do it, but the door to get to the car, trees had grown up there and weeds taller than me, and I'm 6'2". And so we chopped down the bigger stuff, but there was, I will say, a giant bush full of, it was weeds and all that. And he's like, my winch will take care of that. And if you look on my Facebook Auto Archaeology page, we just pulled this thing through the weeds.
Nice.
I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe it actually did it. Just literally the weeds just laid down in front of it. But it was absolutely insane. 6-7 foot tall weeds, we drove right through them with this car, and it's one of my favorite videos I've done in a long time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But other rescues, Chargers, helped the guy get a 70 Challenger TA going after it had been sitting for 40 years.
Right.
Oh, a funny one that I almost died in, sort of.
Oh Lord.
My friends had told me about a guy with an original owner. He's the original owner of a 69 Charger Daytona with the wing and the nose.
Right.
And at this time, I was still very active with multiple magazines. And I'm like, I'll come down and document it for the magazine. I'm like, okay, that's great. Well, they told him I was coming, which was fine because I want them to know. He's like, he was so excited, he washed the car.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm like, oh, okay, it's still original owner. You could see he used to line up beer cans on the wing of the car and shoot them with a BB gun.
Oh, no way.
When he would miss, he'd leave these little divots in the roof. So it was really fun. So he's like, oh, let's try to get the car going. We're like, it's been sitting for like 40 years. We're not going to try to get it going.
Right.
He literally takes a gas can, pours it down the throat of the carburetor. So the carburetor was literally full of gasoline.
Oh, that'll fix it.
And, so we're like, this car hasn't run in like 40 years. We just dumped a quart of gas down this 40-year-old Carter carburetor.
Right.
He had a battery hooked up to an ancient battery charger.
Yes.
And I literally go to the wife. I go, "Ma'am, do you have a fire extinguisher?" And she goes, "No, why would we need that?" And I'm like,
for when your
mind.
house catches on fire?
Yep.
But we let the gas drain out of the carburetor, and we got it to fire off and got it running.
Wow.
And it took about 5 minutes to clear up, but man, that thing started purring like a kitten. I mean, it was just,
Really?
it was wonderful.
Nice.
And it was a 4-speed, so we aired up the tires. We were actually able to get it to roll back and forth a little bit.
Wow.
Which was really surprising.
Yeah.
And the funniest part, other than almost dying in a ball of flame,
Oh, yeah.
is my friend had a 70s Superbird that he drove there. And this was basically one of the first run. He just put a new 440 in it.
Right.
Because his old one had leaked, and it's not the original engine. But the new one was smoking worse than the 40-year-old 440 in the Daytona.
My goodness.
And I have video of it somewhere, and it's just like, oh, there's my friend's brand new 440 because he just puffing blue smoke out the tailpipe.
Oh,
and
that
here's
is
this
terrible.
440 that been sitting for 40 years, and it was just, I mean, it had a little carbon, like it threw a little carbon when it got warmed up, but
Yeah.
other than that, it was perfect. We actually, later on, my friends helped him put brakes on it, and they drove it around a bit.
Nice.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to pop up nowadays.
Nope.
Yep.
Did you guys ever see the video on the SCCA Trans Am Camaro I helped dig out of a barn?
We
in
were
Ohio?
just talking about that briefly earlier. I was talking about that, the red one. Had the
Yeah, it was
square
originally
cutout
red, but
quarters.
It's actually a green and white car.
It was a green and white car. I thought there was because I thought in your videos that there was a red one. It was found as red.
Oh yeah, no, it was red when we found it. It's all cut up and all that.
Yep.
But my friend found the original pictures of the car as race, and it's a green and white.
Green
car.
and white as race, because I remember the pictures when it was rescued. It had the square cutout looking quarters, and it was red, and the insanely wide tires on the back of it.
Yeah, the guy was converting it because it was owned by the one guy who raced it at an SCCA.
Right.
And then the next guy who we bought it from was turning it into a dirt track car.
Oh.
And he never finished,
Nice.
fortunately enough.
Yeah, thank God.
But that was funny to say the least, with the locked up rear end,
Right.
sliding it on the wet. All we had, because it was a very narrow path to get it out of this back barn.
Right.
All we could fit down there was a Ford Ranger. And oh my God. So it was 5 or 6 guys pushing this car that was locked up on wet grass with a Ford Ranger that had like 20 horsepower. That was something to say the least. But I mean, it was restored and unveiled at McCacken last year.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely immaculate and beautifully restored.
Right.
Nice. So, what's Ryan's dream car to get out and drive in? What's the one car that would do it for you?
Oh man, I've been in so many over the years.
But there's got to be the one dream car that you've always wanted.
I've always wanted to drive in a Mercedes 300 SL,
Okay.
the Gullwing car.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I know it's kind of off the beaten path, but I feel that's that and the recent version of it. I feel are beautiful, beautiful cars.
Oh, they are neat cars. Yes.
Yeah.
I've been in Hemi Daytonas. I've driven Hemi Daytonas. I've driven Superbirds, Hemi Cudas, and they're all absolutely amazing. I personally would love to drive my own car sometime. My 71 Challenger has been sitting for 15 years.
Okay.
Wow.
And I'd love to have that one up and running someday.
Yeah.
Future
That's about it on that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Future of our industry. Where do you see things going? You kind of look into your little crystal ball. Where do you see things heading?
Like I said, I've worked with the publishing company, so we're always having meetings on this stuff and what's the future. And, I'm actually, David Freiberger actually hired me at Hot Rod about 7 years ago. And so we've always talked about the stuff. And roadkill has definitely been an influence on the younger culture about it doesn't have to be perfect, just get it running.
Right.
So I still feel that there will be a market for cool cars and cool stuff.
Right.
But it's definitely going to shift away because cars aren't able to be worked on much anymore.
Right.
You can't take your new Red Eye Hellcat Challenger and, swap cylinder heads easily or
Right.
So there definitely will be a big market shift. But our always thing is whatever is cool will always be cool. Like if you had, we use the example of 50s Chevys. So if you had a 57 Chevy Bel Air 2-door with fuel injection, that was cool when it was new.
Right.
It will always be cool. It will always be worth money.
Right.
But your 57 Chevy 4-doors, those will probably drop in price and become more reasonable. Same thing with, think of 32 Fords. If you had a 32 Ford Roadster, those will always bring in good money. But if you had a 32 Ford 4-door, plain Jane, nothing special, those you can pick up for almost a song nowadays.
Sure.
So I feel that there will always be our because it's always been a niche,
right?
But there will always be people to fill those niches, just not as much as it was in the past.
And the younger generation can still see something that you say is quote unquote cool when it was new and cool now, that it'll spark in them and they'll see the draw behind that.
Absolutely. And people keep on yelling at me that all these kids all they have is their cell phones and all that. But there are these kids, they see the Fast and the Furious and all them, they're interested in cars, they love cars. But think of your 16 or 17-year-old who's even passionate about cars. What's the cheapest, with insurance and gas, what can you buy reasonable nowadays that isn't a death trap?
Yes.
And you can't, like I said, we were talking, you can't pick up, even a Slant 6 Duster for a few grand and fix it up anymore.
Right.
So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. We've for our What Drives Youth series, we've certainly spoken with several different people that are restoring vintage cars that are 15 to 22-year-old range. And it's amazing with social media, you start digging, and the people that are using social media are people that are in those age ranges a lot, and they're actually starting to get into cars.
Right.
And it's great to see somebody who's 17, 18, 20 years old that is restoring a car, a vintage car, a car that's pre-74.
Right.
It's rare and it's fun to see.
Yeah, but they are out there.
They are out there.
And we're running across them.
Yes.
And
definitely, we just interviewed her and her father, and follow them if you would. Ellie's Garage. She's restoring. Okay. It's a 4-door car, but she's restoring a '65 Falcon.
Oh, cool.
She's 15 years old
and excited,
and extremely excited.
Real
about
excited,
the car.
yeah. And she's working with her dad. They're hands-on.
Yep. Learning
as they go. So it's a really cool story.
Absolutely great. So
that's awesome.
Look for our episode of that in the future with Ellie's Garage.
Yeah.
And she's all over social media and with a great presence and a great attitude. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Especially we need more women in the industry.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Very much so.
So car guys always have some sort of collection that they have, be it models or Hot Wheels or something. There's always some sort of collection. You got anything like that, Ryan, that you collect?
Over and above the giant pile of things you see behind you?
Yeah, I have my wall of stuff here, but I'm not a collector. Like, I don't go out of my way to go buy stuff per se, because I have I live in Chicago, like Chicago proper.
Okay.
So I don't have a lot of storage space.
Gotcha.
In my office right here. So this is basically about where I'm able to expand what I have. I have books. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of audiobooks on my travels.
Okay.
So I have a lot of history books about either cars or trains or Chicago history. But I collect parts when I can.
Right.
Especially Mopar parts, especially oddball stuff. You can see, like, here I got an original Mopar solvent cleaner can that I picked up for like $1 at a junkyard.
Yep.
Here's where is it? Right there is an original 1964 unveiling of the new 426 Hemi magazine.
Okay.
Cool.
So I got all bunch. I got a few Hot Wheels. I tried to get Hot Wheels that are applicable to me. So they're basically 71 Challengers.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Or modern Challenger stuff.
Okay. Sure.
Also, I'm a little bit of I'm not a nerd. I mean, I'm a nerd, but I'm into Star Trek a little bit, so I've collected some models here.
All right.
Great.
Yeah, just some odds and ends. I mean, it's not like, I mean, like I said, I got probably 2-3 dozen Hot Wheels cars. And, really, the big thing I collect is pictures. Pictures of barn find cars.
Right, right. Awesome.
Very cool.
Any influences in our industry? Any people that you've met or anybody you've fanboyed over or people that have mentored you to get you in the direction of where you are?
I've had a bunch. I've been very fortunate in my travels to work with them. And David Freiberger. Like I said, I was reading Hot Rod Magazine when I started getting into this hobby. And the fact that he dropped out of the blue and said, "Hey, do you want to come raid for Hot Rod?" It wasn't out of the blue, but
still, that's an awesome opportunity.
What's up?
That's an awesome opportunity.
Yeah,
absolutely. Rob Wolf of Mopar Collector's Guide, he saw in me something that most people didn't. He let me run the Mopower Tour, which is that thing in the Hot Rod Power Tour,
right?
And then write my first articles for that for Mopar Collector's Guide magazine. Drew Harden with Muscle Car Review magazine. He was wonderful. I've met all the people, all the TV people, and we're not going to get into that. But yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate that I've had a lot of really influential people in my life that I've been able to work closely with through the years.
Well, good connections.
Absolutely.
And especially, like I said earlier, with social media, it makes your giant world so tiny. Good connections will get you good long-term connections to find more cars to get you more content.
Oh, absolutely. And having this web of people, I mean, I have my friends in the industry that are always coming. You just talked to Tim Strange yesterday. Or in the last few podcasts, I believe.
Right. Yes.
And he just dug out of a barn. I wish I could have been there, but he dug a Chevy Nomad. I think it was a 56 Chevy Nomad. He literally just posted the picture today of him digging it out.
I just briefly seen it.
Yep.
And I need to go back and read it.
And it's like, I wish I could have been there. But
yes,
the timing's not quite right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. So it sounds like you've had a good network of people to work with, and sounds like it's working out really good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been very fortunate. And as you guys know, this media industry is very rapidly changing.
Yep.
Some for the good, some for the bad.
Right.
And you got to keep your friends close.
Right.
That is exactly true. That's exactly true. I want to make sure that everybody knows your socials and how to get in touch with you, and how can people find you on social media if they do have a barn finder and need to get a hold of you.
Absolutely. It's actually very easy. I whore myself out very well across all the social media platforms.
Understandable.
I'm on Facebook under the Auto Archaeologist.
Okay.
I am on Instagram under the same thing, the Auto Archaeologist. And I'm on YouTube under Auto Archaeology. And I'm always checking it. I mean, not always, but I check it daily.
Right.
I'm always posting pictures to my Instagram, and it then carries over to Facebook. So I'm there all the time. If you drop me a message, either in a comment or in a direct message, I'll respond usually within a day or so, unless I'm on the road and can't.
Well, I've had a fun time talking with you.
Yeah, it's been real interesting.
A lot of information.
It's been a pleasure.
Learned a lot of stuff from him. That's cool.
Yeah, it's been cool.
And I hope it's not just weird trivia. I hope you're able to put it to good use here in the future.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Keep in touch, and we'll talk to you about some more up-and-coming opportunities and events that we have going if we need to get stuff going with McCacken or anything in the future. You seem to be the main guy.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Right,
Thanks for
good.
staying with us. Hey, Ryan, what drives you?
Well, it's hunting for cool old cars in neglected situations because you never know what you're going to find. Could be a 54 Chevy 4-door or it could be a 70 Hemi Cuda. You never know within reason. So I love the thrill of the hunt, the adrenaline of going out there and finding cool cars just sitting neglected in weird situations.
Shawn, the people at faxdisc.com sent us these car fax discs. little circle you can put on your car.
Yeah, these things are pretty cool.
Yeah.
What you can do is go to their website, purchase one of these discs, go online, add some pictures. Super easy to do.
Yeah.
Information about your car. And you pop it in the window of your car. And people at car shows can come by, point their smartphone camera at the little code there. They can scan it, follow the link, see your pictures, whatever information you want to put on there.
Yeah, right up here on the screen. That's their site right there.
Right. You can have histories, photos, build pictures of the vehicle.
Yeah.
If you got your car for sale, you can have a link to that.
Oh, yeah, we did one for Saddletramp. That was pretty slick. Shows what we started with.
Right. Kind of works through and what we did to the thing.
Like the old car books. People used to put them on the hood of their car.
Yeah, the photo albums.
Yeah, a little photo album, and they'd show what they did.
Yeah.
Bring it up into the digital age. Anybody that's watching, you can certainly go to their site, faxdisc.com. Try this out. And it's pretty slick, pretty easy to use.
Pretty easy, yes. You know, for anybody that wants to see how easy these things are to use, they can certainly go to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We did one of these for Saddletramp and got it on there, and we'll do a little video of that.
Man, it was easy. It was easy.
Here on Get.Out.N.Drive.Podcast, we try to promote the next group of
next generation.
The generation is coming up. We tag it what drives youth.
Sure.
Because at some point, us older folks will be moving out, and they'll be coming in behind us.
That's true.
And you know, taking over the hobby and the
we got to have some
industry.
We got to have some ability to talk to other people and tell them about what we know.
Right. So one of that's going to be up and coming is Gas Pedal Kid.
Right.
A lot of people's heard about him. Young kid, goes around to a lot of different shows, takes a lot of pictures.
He's an excellent photographer.
Yeah. So we'll be talking with him next episode.
Excellent.
And be interesting to get his information and
his take on from a younger perspective.
Right. And see what he's all about.
Excellent.
You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Like, share, give us your comments. Tag us on Twitter at Get.Out.N.Drive.Pod.
What drives you?